it's the same mentality as the women we have in our countries. It's never enough. They want more. That's all. Feminism wants more. When is it ever going to be enough?
Here it is. That talks much easier. There's a woman. I saw a piece on Fox News. Heather McDonald. Feminism has ambitions to take over civilization. And then a quote. They're trying to disappear males. Well, I'm going to do a video about this this Saturday. So,
Okay.
Well, Heather McDonald. She's from the Manhattan Institute. She says feminism has ambitions to take over civilization, and when that happens, you can say goodbye to civilization. They're trying to disappear males.
Damn right.
Feminism is really at odds with the civilizational legacy that we have inherited, that we have to preserve at all cost. Well, finally, someone who understands it, you know. Well, there are more people who understand it, but a woman. And then, I think it's a very interesting question. This guy presenting the news, Tucker Carlson, he asked, why would a group, any group, want to poison the relationship between men and women, which is the building block of everything that is good in the world? Well, she answered, because they would rather hate. They are self-interested, they have no understanding of the future, they have no understanding of the values and virtues that make civilization possible, and they're simply seizing power and are in manic rage to efface males. Whatever. How you say it? Stupid. Yeah.
Efface. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways,
it is. Yeah. Go on.
Well, actually, that was it.
Well, no, I definitely can just. I got a big stick behind my back. I'm ready just to beat the shit out of that one with. So it's just women weaken nations. Way of the world. Go look it up when you can. But it talked about a singular incident. A Swedish girl that tries to protect a Muslim guy on the plane. They're deporting him, and she manages to prevent. She gets on the plane, puts herself in front of the people trying to get her off the plane, so that he can be put back into Sweden again. Even though this guy's a convicted criminal.
Oh man.
Okay. He's a convicted criminal.
Yeah, but
and she's doing it because it's virtue signaling bullshit. But this is not. This is only part.
I don't want to be sexist or something, but this indeed you already said it is a female trait. It's illogical. I don't know where it's coming from. During my career or something. No, what was a internship I had during my first education, social work before the religious stuff. I worked with refugees for a year, and most of my colleagues were females, and at one point I had to help at multiple points, and I'm talking from experience here, and I did help refugees with their, like, how you say it, juridical procedures in English. Okay. So helping them, giving their information about getting a permit and stuff like that, and helping them with all kinds of stuff. It was working for an organization that is very pro refugees. Well, at that time I was really more, to the left politically. At the moment I'm more like in the center. Anyway, there were most of my female colleagues over there were I had to help people that indeed were criminals, violent. Like, they're not all like that, There are many good refugees. There are many. I had, conversations with people that are fantastic people and really would be an asset actually to our country. I believe that.
Sure.
But there's a group of people that are not savages, but not good people.
They're not good people. They're not good for your
No.
society, I think is the important. But that's the problem
And
that
I,
you see.
the problem I had, like this conflict in me, I did not want to help those people. I think, why would I want to help you? You're just an asshole.
You're enabling them to hurt
Yeah.
you. That's the problem. This is the destructiveness of female nature. It's, again, the road to hell is paved with intention. Do you ever stop to think that their extreme reaction is to a response of their extreme self-loathing? Women are some of the most self-loathing creatures you'll ever meet. They're neurotic by nature. Most women I know, even smart. I recently dated briefly a clinical psychiatrist, an MD. Okay, she was from India. Right. Okay, she's from Calcutta. Okay, and this is gonna, if anybody hears this, they're gonna respond. And it was from Tinder that I met her. And I don't use
Tinder.
And by the way, I just want to, before you go off on your mind explodes, I'm not a Tinder guy. I don't use it regularly. I just did it because, I'll just be perfectly frank. I want to get laid. We all know, we've been there. We've been down that rabbit hole. Wink, wink. And so it's yes, I wanted to get laid. And so, but here's the thing. She was fun to talk to. She was intellectually, we were on equal footing. That was cool. But there's been videos about this. Don't date educated women or standards and all that. But again, I'm an educated man, so that wasn't a problem. And so, but here's the thing. I was also, in a very real sense, I was testing the waters. Mm-hmm. I wasn't so much going back to the plantation as I was sitting there with a little clipboard in my hand and my nerd glasses on in my pocket, going, okay, let's start this experiment. I'm going to see what happens.
Well, good luck with that if that's your.
This is well, no, but it's at least that was a part of my brain thinking, and it wasn't just I did want to get laid, but I mean. But to be fair, I was also looking at it with a much more critical and analytical eye than I ever had before. This is the first time I've actually openly went, and again, not returning to the plantation, just looking for a hookup or just somebody to talk to, a female, just for funsies. And so it was interesting. It was an interesting experiment. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but think, I already knew what my values were, and I was sticking right to them. And as a matter of fact, I was completely honest with her. She said she'd never heard of MGTOW. She didn't know about all this, and she'd seen some of my videos. She liked.
Oh, wow.
Yes. She was fascinated. I was kind of educating her on. See, she's caught up in her practice. She's around my age. All right, so, and so she was fascinated by all of this. And for me, she's been living here in the United States for a good long time now. She's been here for at least a couple of decades. And this is in California, not in Texas. When I first landed, I landed back in California first, and then I came to Texas later. But that's so in the back of my mind, though, I'm thinking, okay, by all rights, by society standards, educated woman, drove a super nice BMW. Doing well, at least that's the impression she gave. Okay, bear in mind, a lot of what you see in a person is always going to be illusion, including ourselves. It depends on how honest you are about things. So, I was very honest with her, like brutally so. I didn't hold back because I know what I want and I know what I don't want. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. In the same way that women do that to men. Okay? And there's always going to be a little bit of some friction there, but this is women again and how they are. This is all going back to that article that you talk about and why women, at some point, it's in their nature, and this is why we are needed to keep the balance in check. Women do mean well, but they're fearful creatures and they operate from fright. So what do? Is they create fear of men because they're afraid of their own weakness in the equation. So now that they have a measure of power, what are they doing? They're overusing that power to a very destructive ends. It's not going to end well because one thing that they lack, that I've noticed this in most women. It's rare to find women that actually can calm their own emotional crap for a minute and think in a very reasoned, balanced way of thinking, instead of just being knee-jerk emotional and making decisions based on emotional reasoning, which is not reasonable at all, which is what you're seeing in feminism. And I saw it. So I was wondering about this psychiatrist. At what point is this going to go pear-shaped? So I waited, and went along, and it only took about a month, a little over a month, for that to just go, and she just went kind of nuts. And then there was no rhyme or reason. There was no, it wasn't like we didn't get into any sort of argument. It's like she wanted to kick over the anthill just to see what would happen. Either it was some sort of shit test, but I didn't fall for it. And I won't. I just won't. I'm like, okay. And I told her, I said, my final things to her were, I said, look at you. Look at how you're acting, and you're a psychiatrist. You're supposed to understand the human mind, understand your own behaviors. First of all, what I noticed in her was a lack of self-examination. She was always looking to external things without ever looking at herself in the equation. This is at the core of feminism.
Well, you know what they say.
My opinion.
It's like the women that choose for educations like psychology, and I've been on social work during my bachelor, are often the craziest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, not surprised at all.
Somehow, I think my father once said it. That's the ultimate way to hide their own baggage. Like trying to. Yeah, be busy with other people's baggage, something like that. I don't know what it is. So.
Well, again, Voltaire: tend your own garden. Cultivate your own garden. If you're too busy trying to mess with other people's garden, your own suffers.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But you should grow your tomatoes like this. You should do this, and this. And so they're always busy. This is why the term busybody. And this is true in any culture, yours, mine, Norway, Sweden, France, anywhere, even Indonesia. Women are busybodies. They're always getting up in other people's shit. They're always like, they're just like, oh, well, I can, this is why they love gossip and innuendo. Women they're famous for that. I mean, come on, but again, excuse me, this is part of their nature. Men have always understood this. But the thing is now the problem is they're shutting down the dialogue of men and the necessary balancing act that men provide in our society with women. In other words, in the same way that women soften men a little bit not to be too aggressive, so we teach women not to go overboard with their fear and softening. So, or whatever. I didn't say that quite the way I intended, but you get my point. In other words, we know what they're like. We understand them. And the first step to harnessing anything, it's like we harness energy. We have to understand it first. Okay, energy can be used in for good, for bad, and their goodness, what's toxic altruism, I've heard that bandied about. It's true. We get too caught up in the helping of people, like for instance in Europe, and taking over civilization because, the female way is the better way. I beg to differ. This civilization that you stand upon, this technology that allows you to have an easier life and all of that, that's all very well known. You've talked about that, a few others have, and it's true. Society we are really at a point now where women have been emancipated from traditional roles, but then at the same time so have men. But men brought us to this point. And women were also part of that equation too. But so, yeah, again, I can't stress this enough. We're simply seeing the results of our own technology and our own advancement as a species start to affect the very definition of what it is to be us. In a real way, the human race at the moment, especially given the now, we're trying to figure out where we fit in all of this. Suddenly the expectations of the past are kind of melting away and new ones are being replaced, and there is chaos in between. We're trying to figure it out. Okay. Clearly, a feminized society is not the answer any more than an overly male society isn't the answer. You and I both have asserted we're both somewhere in the middle. I think that is the answer. Balance.
Mm-hmm.
Simple.
Yeah, I think
Well,
so too.
it
I think
sounds,
so too.
yeah.
Well, a video I made, I think last month. It was very criticized. Maybe you've seen it. It was titled, of course, a little bit provoking. Why women? No, I forgot. It was about why women will take over, something like that. Yeah, and it was a guy about an interview with a guy. He was talking about that. Just what you're saying is that we are going from one extreme, perhaps one extreme that's open to discussion, to another extreme, and the one extreme would have been the patriarchy. Not sure if that's an extreme. Many people said no, that's not an extreme. That's a natural way of things. Well, I actually don't know many things of human history. We just don't know. We just don't exactly know how people in the tribal age lived, what the relations were with like between men and women. But evidence or research shows that it was kind of, equality. No, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. And the other extreme, of course, is an extreme feminized society, which we are which we are heading towards. And he said that to reach like the middle way, we have to go through both to get balance. What do you think about that? Do you think something about that?
Yeah. Honestly, I do. I think a lot about these things. Again, I certainly, I don't have all the answers. But I think a lot of what I'm going to say and a lot of what you say, some other guys hearing us will probably agree with a lot of this because it's kind of patently obvious. I do agree that honestly, I'm a little bit ambivalent on that question because I'm not sure if I want to see just how bad it can get. I think it's kind of really another way you could look at it, just how. But perhaps sometimes they say the hardest lessons are the best lessons. And unfortunately, people are hurt in this process. But we can never. One of the things about our humanity is that one of the issues that we have is when other humans are hurt, or even ourselves, are killed in this process. I only need to look at France and look at the Yellow Jackets or whatever. So these are people organizing themselves. I mean, I feel like it's Bastille Day all over again. So I mean, it's what let's chop off some high-powered heads, but it just I don't know if I want to see it get that bad. I just because it is kind of going that way. I look at Portland, Oregon. Steve Watson, whatever, did he's talked about various cities, France, both in Europe and the U.S. of just how this just crazed shit going on. And a lot of it can be tied right back to the very sort of Marxist, leftist, crazed feminist bullshit going on. And holy shit, even I don't know if I want to see the society go that bad. I really don't. It concerns me, but maybe it has to happen. I understand what he's saying, even though I haven't seen the source material you're talking about. But yeah, I get that. The extreme of males is things like world wars. That's not good. But some would also argue, but many would also, the more critical thinking of it, seeing this from a huge picture, from the advance of civilization, not from so much from epochs and periods, but from eras and eons in the human equation, in our story as a race of beings. Perhaps it is necessary. Perhaps the anthill has to be kicked over yet again so that we can build a better one. This is not a new concept. Many highly thinking individuals have thought about this and said, yes, sometimes we need conflict in order to grow. What came of World War II? Well, lots of things. Advances in technology, advances in medicine, and advances in human thought and humanism. Because let's face it, look at what a good example of somebody who had an idea of society for the world was Nazi Germany. They started with good intentions. They didn't mean for that to happen. Germans, I know plenty of Germans. They're good people. They're fine. They're
Oh yeah.
smart. Great people.
Oh yeah.
Some of them, but like in any society, they were after World War One. They were facing some of the worst inflation ever, and they not only that, but they had the pall of their neighbors hating them, and basically, it's not a comfortable place. So what did they do? And I'm going somewhere with this. So forgive me. I'll try to keep it short. So they ended up, suddenly the Nazi Party, which was not, at that time, didn't mean something evil or bad. It didn't. It certainly at the time they were nationalistic.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to rebuild Germany. They had good ideas about rebuilding Germany, and they did it. They did it, but then they took it too far. Then the power grab. Then and Hitler wasn't even the beginning architect of all this. He just happened to become the main figurehead of it. So look at what came of that. Germany advanced, became once again a military and political power in Europe. Okay, but then all of a sudden they started getting crazy ideas about subhumans, Jews, Poles, Gypsies, being killed by the millions. Horrible, horrific stuff.
Yep.
Right. So that's an example of madness going too far. So of that, now look at the Germany of today. Let's fast forward to the now. Look at Merkel. Look at what she's doing. It's almost like a response to that, because it wasn't that long ago. It was a generation ago, right? A couple of generations ago. So it still affects the mentality and the mindset of the people within the European sphere, and ours too, by the way. America, we're just a big ass powerful child of Europe. So is Australia. So is all other Western countries. So we're all in this together. So now her response is, where once we were persecuting and killing people that were different than us, or that we didn't like or didn't agree with, now we're just going to open the floodgates and let them all come in. Yeah, just come on in. Come on in here. Rape our girls. That's fine. It's like it's literally the opposite end of that.
Yeah. I would like to add something, if you don't mind. Yeah,
Please
because
do. Go ahead.
last years I've been in Germany many times, because three of my friends have moved from Germany, from my town, because the economy is still a bit better. Actually, back in the days it was better when he moved, like 4 years ago.
You there?
Sorry?
Oh, there.
You hear me?
Okay. Sorry, you just cut off a minute. Yeah, go ahead. Start that over,
course.
please, because it cut off.
Okay. Like that, three of my friends have moved to Germany from my hometown, because they were able to find a job there. A good job. So they moved. That's why I've been visiting them the last 3-4 years often. And one of them also has a German girlfriend. So two. They all have a German girlfriend actually right now at the moment. So I've been learning a little bit more about the German people, and we have had a lot of discussions about this subject actually, because a few years ago, I don't know if you heard, there was a incident or many incidents that refugees had sexually assaulted German women during New Year's Eve.
Cologne.
Yeah, in Cologne. And at that moment, I was in Cologne. I was celebrating. Yeah, I was celebrating New Year's Eve with my friends. So, yeah, we were at home, so we didn't witness all this stuff. Actually, it happened in Cologne, in the center, the town center. But anyway, the problem with the Germans, or I don't know if you can call it a problem, it's more like a consequence of the Second World War, is an guilt, like a collective guilt they all have. And they've been raised with that guilt, and that guilt has been like pumped into them, and it's given from generation to generation. And which means that my generation, for example, and then the German ones, the Germans, they are very extremely politically correct, even more so than the Dutch, because the Dutch are very much politically correct as well. So that's why they were able to, let this come to this point. And I think now more and more Germans are waking up. So I have the Dutch or the Danish, and I don't know about the Swedish actually. So that's what's happened, and that's why the German people are tolerating so much. Exactly what you said. It's like the complete opposite of what happened during the World War. Well, I think partly I can understand it, but there should be a limit. You know, everything should stay rational and logical, which is not really the case, I think, at this point.
It isn't, no. No, because it really isn't. That's amazing that you were there. Again, this boils down to individuals. It always will. You know, the old saying, you know, don't see the forest for the trees, sort of thing, or don't see the trees for the forest. It works both ways, okay? And honestly, and I get that too, and I kind of get that sense of the Germans that I know. I feel that way, and I've got friends in a lot of parts of Europe, so, and including Denmark, by the way.
All right.
But but European mentality is not so different from our own here in the States. I mean, because we're, you know, I think the only difference is just some of this, part of this has to play with the fact that, well, let's just look at Europe. I mean, it's a very diverse kind of place. By its very nature, Europe it's actually an amazing place when you think about it. Like all these different languages, these different cultures, and not that far from each other. Not really.
Yeah.
Right? Huge, long history.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the interesting part of it. But the mentality, you know, is.
No.
You want to say something about that, or
No.
So, but my point is that, if something starts to happen, particularly in certain countries, like particularly Germany and France and all that, and England, holy crap, you know, and Sweden, it's like, they're on the opposing end of this belief, or this, it's almost, if I didn't know any better, it's like if you've done something bad, like an individual does something bad, something really, really bad, like the kind of mistake that will stay with them for the rest of their life. That's exactly what they're going through. And they want to wash that off. They're ashamed of it. They're guilty, like you said. They're guilty, so let's wash it off. So let's wash it off let's open the tap for the immigrants and just wash ourselves into doing something nice for a bunch of people without considering the fact that we're flooding the boat. The ship is sinking again.
Yes.
It's like we're literally flooding our boat, and we're sinking. If you want to consider the boat Germany, or in this, well, shit, you know, think about the European Union and what they're trying to do. It's the ship, she's sinking. It's flooding. Okay, and that, I think, is the point.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
So it's meant well, but it's not the answer either. You need balance, and it's a slow process. They're never going to completely get away from that moment in their history, but you know what? They're not the only country in the world that's got a dark history. You know?
Yeah.
So,
well, I understand the guilt, and I think it's a good thing that they want to do, like, good for other people, and to some degree, I think there's nothing wrong with letting immigrants entering your country. If you look here in my country, in the Netherlands, the largest groups of immigrants are the Turkish and the Moroccans. The last one are a bit infamous of causing trouble, but I must say that the last years you don't hear so much about it. And, you know, so it's not black and white. You know, people always want to think in
No,
extremes, like all immigration is bad, so everything has to go, or you know, or completely multicultural and like flooding, letting the people in, and on the other hand, a completely like homogenic society. You know, I think both those are extremes. I think to a certain extent, immigration is fine, but it's going too far.
immigration is necessary.
Yeah, especially for a small
It is
for a
going
small
too far.
country like the
Yeah.
Netherlands, it is. I think it was necessary because the immigrants, like the two groups I mentioned, have built up this country and have really generated a lot of wealth.
Sure.
Especially there's another group like the Dutch Indonesians, which I am partly a part of. You know, that has a history in you know, Indonesia was a colony of the Netherlands, so that's a completely different story. But if you look at Germany right now, I think they have I think more than 1 million immigrants have entered the last few years. Refugees, eh? That's really
Right.
different.
Yeah, and that's just Germany.
That's just Germany. And Germany
Let's
is a
not
big
forget.
country. It's like
Just Germany.
80 million people. But still 1 million people, that's huge. That's very much.
That's
So it's out of
a very significant fraction of the population.
very much. And that's, you know, I think like 10 or 15 years ago, maybe it would have been better to just close the borders, like temporarily maybe, but just close them and fix the problems we already have. Because there are problems. We cannot deny that, you know. There were problems like 20 years ago. Problems with integration, you know, with like groups or part of those groups not wanting to integrate and stuff like that. There's a famous politician, Geert Wilders. I don't know if you know him. He's a Dutch politician. Okay. He's talking about that a lot. So, well, they didn't do it because it wasn't politically correct.
Well, no,
you know?
of course
And now we have more problems. You know, yeah.
Well, I come from a country of immigrants. I mean, America is a country of immigrants, except for the Native Americans. Okay, I mean, let's just call it for what it is. I myself, same as you, we're both mixed bloods, and so integration is going to happen. We must always see that, but and again, these are, as we had, you know, you just started earlier, and I agree with you completely. We are talking about extremes here. Immigration is important. I love this planet. I love the diversity on this planet. I love going to different countries and meeting new people, and getting to know. And I've done a lot of that, and I'm not even done yet. I'm going to do a lot more of that. That's kind of the new life I'm making for myself, because that was the life I enjoyed. My point is, immigration's fine as long as it's not. It's like, I often operate in analogies. It's like if you think of people as electrons, okay, as electricity, the thing that makes electricity happen. A little bit of current is a good thing. It can be put to good use and is productive. Too much current, you fry everything. That's exactly what's going on. It's too much at once. It's like eating too much Haagen-Dazs. Okay, a little bit of Haagen-Dazs is good. Lovely, love Haagen-Dazs. And I'm not going to feel too guilty because I just had a small bowl. I enjoyed the meal. Done. Right, the dessert. But if I eat the whole frickin' 3 liters of it, you know, or whatever, or liter, or you know, and then I'm sick. This is a good example. It's a simple analogy, but it works. You can apply analogies to just about anything.
I would rather use
the trickle of humanity.
Yeah. I would rather use the analogy of sambal. You know sambal? Indonesian sambal.
Oh, I love sambal.
But don't
hell yeah.
Put too much sambal on it, you know. It's the same. It makes it more spicy, more interesting to eat, but don't, if you ever try too much sambal, you know that the next morning, you know, it's your ass is going to hurt. And
I sat I sat on a burning ring of fire.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Johnny Cash Ring of
Yeah,
Fire. So,
got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, stuff like that's being talked about within the MGTOW community a lot. And especially by, I think Stardusk talks a lot about it. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's a very difficult
In a very
thing to
real,
talk about.
it
And
is.
no one
Um,
completely knows
it's difficult, but it's
it's necessary.
necessary.
Nobody completely knows what's going
Yeah.
on. And there's a teacher at the University of Amsterdam. I interviewed him once for a project, and he has completely different views
Okay.
about it. He just showed us the percentages, and actually the percentage of Muslims here in the Netherlands, it seems much higher, but it's actually very very low. And if you look at Europe, the European Union, it's just a few percent,
Hmm.
just I think 2 or 3%. It's
Yeah.
very low. So what I think when I listen to especially when I listen to Americans talk about the situation in Europe, it's not a
Sure.
civil war. There are problems. Yes, there are many immigrants, many refugees coming to Europe, but it's not like the civil war going on that sometimes Europe's talked about. I mean, not, let's say, not yet. I think sometimes things are
Mm.
being made much worse than they really are. That's my own, like, grassroots level experience. And I live not in a very big city, but it's like a
Hmm.
middle-sized city for Netherlands terms, Dutch terms. And in my
Sure.
street,
Okay.
uh, well, it's a very multicultural street. If I look at my flat, at my apartment, I live with my neighbor next door is a Dutch guy, and below me there are people from the Caribbean area. Was once a colony of the Netherlands as well, the Antilles. I don't know if you know it. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
do.
I have a refugee living below me also, and there's one Dutch woman. And I think the whole street is compromised. I think 40% is non-Dutch. Well,
Right. Right.
my experience is actually it works. There's not
Sure.
many
Why
problems
not?
here. Um, if I stand on the balcony and I look outside, for example, if you don't mind, I will tell you, keep it short, a very short story about this. The nice things about immigration. Um, there's a family,
Hmm.
I think it's a Moroccan family, Muslims. The woman wears a scarf,
Hmm.
and they have 4 kids.
Okay.
And we have here in the south, we're very enthusiastic about celebrating Carnival. You know that? You know Carnival?
Celebrating. Oh
Carnival
yeah, of course. Yeah.
is a Christian uh, like party, Christian tradition. Everyone is
Hmm.
like, it's like
Right.
Halloween. Everyone is dressing up like something, and it's 5 days only drinking beer and doing stuff like this. It's great. So a few years ago,
Oh
those
yeah.
those small children, I think they were like 8, 9, 10, something like that. I was sitting on the balcony and
Hmm.
they just came outside, all dressed up. You know, they're Muslims. Many Muslims are celebrating
Yeah.
Carnival. Many do. It's something beautiful. I saw,
Yeah.
oh wow, they're integrating. And what many people think about, yeah,
They are into.
many MGTOW are saying about Muslims, like, yeah, the Muslims will change Europe for the good. Like they will bring that tradition to Europe, and then all the feminists will obey their man and everything, stuff like that. They're saying, well, yeah,
Well, it's Sharia law. basically.
Yeah, the Sharia law.
Yeah.
They will install the Sharia
Sharia.
law here, and stuff like that is going to happen. Everything is going to be all right. No, that's not going to happen, because what you see is that Muslims here are exposed to feminism as well, and getting like feminized as well. So I think if you look at the second, third, maybe fourth generation, they'll be just like the Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bullshit. Integration.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not like
It
a
really
virus that are spreading and like like the Borg, Star Trek, like assimilating everything they're going to.
Oh, God.
They're Muslims. They're just
Gotcha.
people. They happen to be
Big fan.
Muslim. They have a strong tradition. And what you see is that many Muslims also, there's a very big part of the Muslims, they're holding on to that tradition. That's true. They decide to wear scarves and to preserve their Islamic identity. That's all true. But you also see that feminism, especially, let's just call it feminism, I don't think Western values, I think that's a better way to describe it, are very much influencing the Muslims here. Much more than people think, and much more than Muslims are influencing Western society. And that's, I think, a very big mistake that people are making here. I know this because I have Muslim friends. I know what they're doing, what they're up to.
Well, and I'm the same.
So yeah, that's it. That's what I want to say.
Trust me, I get it. That's a fair comment. I mean, but I think it's important to understand like the microcosm versus the macro. The bigger picture versus the smaller picture. And again, I told you, my recent ex-wife and my daughter, she's a Muslim. She's but certainly mom is sort of pushing the whole, you need to pray 5 times a day, which she gets exasperated. Watch this in action. And my ex-wife's putting on the, you've been to Indonesia, so and my ex-wife is Javanese, so she puts on, whenever they pray, they always put on the whole outfit, with the head covering, the scarf, and these sort of flowing like dresses that are very pretty, and then they get on the rug and they pray to Allah, 5 times. And now she's doing it where she didn't used to.
Yeah.
But she's trying to push that onto my daughter. And again, my point is, I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine with that. Although the religion was, she wanted me, and I think we may have skipped past this, but one of the reasons why we're no longer together is because she was trying to literally insist that I completely rewrite my identity and become Islamic. And I'm like, why are you doing this now after 20 years? Why now? So that's why I think that the world is intruding. Look at England. Look at what's going on there with regards to Muslim issues, to Islam issues. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, people should not come in here to try to rewrite the country to suit themselves. They need to integrate into it. If I were to go to, say I was going to go, let's say I wanted to become, if it was even possible, a citizen of Saudi Arabia. Well, they're very specific about that shit. They're like, oh, okay, you can come in here. Well, guess what? You need to start praying to Allah, and you better, toe the line, because that's our society. Yep. That's our society. We expect you, and honestly, I don't have that's fair comment. If I'm going to, sometimes there's a saying, sometimes you have to accommodate traditions in order to survive them, right? Doesn't mean you agree with them. It just means that you have to at least walk the walk and talk the talk. So it's yeah. And so I don't have an issue with them either. And integration is a part of that, but it's when it's too much, when it crosses the line. There is some line crossing going on. We need to be able to see that.
We cannot deny that there are problems, with extremism.
Yeah, there are.
And,
But anyway, it always comes down to that, doesn't it? You notice that? Extremism on any side is never a good thing.
What do you think about MGTOW monks?
Okay. That is a good question. I actually know a little bit about that, even though I was sort of I kind of lived a bit of a monk lifestyle myself, um, mainly because I just didn't want to deal with. It's funny, you don't really. I think that, like anything, there's advantages and disadvantages to it, and it's very much an individualized decision. It's a choice that a man makes whether or not to interact with women at all, or to especially to have sex in particular. But I I have to say I admire guys that do that because to me that's a level of commitment to oneself that many don't actually experience. Like I think I mentioned Buddhist monks in one of my videos, but it's and I've actually met Buddhist monks, and so it's um, I'm sure you have too, right? Have you met any Buddhist monks, like the traditional
Not
Buddhist
not
monks? It was
not
in
monks.
Thailand,
No,
but
I was in
no.
Indonesia. I think I've seen some in Bali, but I've never really
Yeah.
talked with them. No.
Well, I've had in passing, I've had conversations with a couple, and they're actually together, but it was very interesting. Although I didn't really get to have the kind of conversation I would have hoped for because of time constraints at that time. But it's really not what I'm kind of getting at. But it's the sort of vow of celibacy and all that. But it's deeply now a MGTOW monk. I think like any human comes in multiple flavors. There's a MGTOW monk out of choice. There's a MGTOW monk out of necessity coupled with choice. There's a MGTOW monk because he's just let's just face it, he's not an attractive guy.
TFL.
He's not getting the attention of females these days. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And, and so I would say that the arrival at becoming a MGTOW monk is, once again, predicated on the individual journey, but does carry its own benefits. I think it does have benefits. I think that a man that is taken, because let's face it, as much as some of us still are fighting our urges towards women and the desire to have one in our life or to at least be around them from time to time, it is still a huge distraction. When you're freed from such shackles, when you have these particular distractions taken away from you, it allows your mind a level of liberation and freedom to explore your own ideas, your own creativity, your postulations, perhaps to maybe push science ahead or push human thought ahead or whatever it might be. I think that you have a wider playing field because you've eliminated one of the most critical distractions of our lives. And this is, you could easily say this about women too. Because what does a woman do when she has a man in her life? Well, she wants to fill his life with shit that she thinks he should be doing. So, that takes time and effort, right? So, but so that's my feeling on it, in a very, very almost facile way, but it's
Okay.
yeah. So that's about it, really. I mean, what about you though? I mean, what's your
Well,
take on
with
MGTOW
my
monkhood?
background in studying religions and also experiencing some religious stuff, like for example, I was for a long weekend in a Hinduistic monastery. I was for a week. I lived alongside the monks of a Christian monastery, the Trappisten, we call it in Dutch. They're the Cistercians. Well, I don't know in English. Anyway, it's an order of monks quite close to my hometown, and there's Christian monk. That was a beautiful experience. They have the vow of celibacy. That's true, and well, I think you have two kind of monks if you look at MGTOW. And you have the monks that don't want to have anything to do with women, with society to some extent. And they are happy with their doll and their porn and stuff like that. You understand? So that's not really a vow of celibacy. They don't want
Sure.
to have anything to do with women. They don't want a relationship. They don't want to marry, but they still acknowledge like some kind of sexual desires, and you know, their way to fulfilling those desires are like sex dolls, hookers, porn, stuff like that.
Incessant masturbation.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
masturbation.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
sometimes I get this feeling, I don't know if it's true, I get this idea that some of these guys are actually, and not only the monks, but other guys as well, the non-monks, is going into some kind of sexual obsession, you know, maybe porn addiction, something like that. And that is just a product of,
Well,
yeah,
of course. And it's so
yeah,
easy.
precies, it's easy, but it's
Yeah.
also a product of a
Hmm.
society that is very
Hmm.
sexualized. It's a sex-obsessed society we're living in. But I
Oh,
think the
yes.
the
Yeah.
the beautiful element of being a monk, like the potential of being a monk, the
The
real
real deal,
deal.
you mean?
Maybe that's the best way to
Yeah.
describe it.
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
trying to free yourself from such, let's call it addiction, and
It
maybe what
is.
is more like esoteric talk, like channeling. Yeah, you know, see people talking about that, channeling your sexual energy in something else, not always like wasting your energy on
Absolutely.
porn, on stuff.
It's just
It's I was yeah.
it's a good take.
Hmm.
Well, if I'm going to add to that, think about the definition of insanity. We've heard this, I'm sure. I mean, most people have. What is the definition of insanity? It's reductionist level. It's basically doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So addiction is really just a form of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again. Chasing the dragon, chasing that feeling. That first initial feeling was fantastic, but then everyone after that is going to be a lesser version of that initial high feeling, that dopamine, endorphin filled
Yeah.
feeling of bliss and joy and ecstasy. And so, okay, so and so that is the essence of addiction. And so monkhood, like you took a MGTOW monk who's basically expressing, if you're addicted to porn or sex dolls and all of that, I've if that's what some guys do, I've never done that myself, so I don't know, but I can understand it. I can understand it. I can understand that basically they're doing nothing more than it is an addictive thing, but they're also trying to fill something in their soul, in their mind, and they are conflating a physical need with something that isn't really a physical need. They're replacing, they're desperately plugging the hole in their soul, in their
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
heart, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And yes, sex feels good, but it isn't the end all of existence. I have found that when like I've experienced probably what it feels like to be a monk in the true sense, and that I'm not being, or as close to the true sense as in my particular lifestyle will accommodate, that beautiful, wonderful joy of really just putting my mental capacity to the test. I let my mind wander into amazing places. Spirituality is also imagination, and it's sort of just kind of absorbing life in a really big
Mm-hmm.
way, and also
Mm-hmm.
and sort of kind of setting physical distractions aside, and over time, those things suddenly don't have the power over you that they once did. But it takes time and patience to get there. Everybody's different, but certainly it takes discipline. It's a mental thing too, very much so. Because let's face it, if you're a healthy male, your body is going to occasionally react. But what you do with that is in your brain. You decide, okay, nope, I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to choose to either channel or ignore it, whatever
Mm-hmm.
works.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, so that's just my an add-on to
Yeah, about channeling, you mean your sexual energy, or okay.
your sexual, like you talked about. Yeah,
Yeah,
channeling,
yeah.
which is very good. Finding ways to express it.
Yes,
So yeah.
just to add something a little bit, I'll keep it short, is like sexual pleasure. Um, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's also a form of it can be let's say out of my own experience as well a form of not hiding. It's a refuge. It's fleeing from reality. It's the same as like drinking alcohol and or binge watching some series on Netflix or stuff like that. If you
Oh
look at
God.
our society that's so highly sexualized, it's almost seen as one of the highest form of escapism, you know. And I can imagine that if
Mm-hmm.
you're um, for example, you're not getting laid anymore because one, you cannot get laid because you're like not attractive enough to women, something like that. Or the second one, if you choose to, you choose, for example, you choose to be a MGTOW monk, then there's a huge emptiness, there's
Mm-hmm.
huge gap because your sexual hypersexual needs, your extreme sexual needs were always met by the women you were with, your girlfriend, or maybe you're like a pump and dumper. And
Yeah, I've
I
been
have
that
been that
guy.
guy.
I have been that guy a long time ago when I was in my 20s. Yeah, of course I was. And to a certain extent, my 30s.
Yeah.
When in between being married, yeah,
Okay,
of
okay,
course,
not.
and before. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we all. I think many
But
many
not okay.
guys.
Let me
Yeah,
qualify
yeah.
that. That was not my. I promise you this. That term did not exist. Um, when maybe it did, but it certainly wasn't bandied around. But I didn't certainly use that, nor was that my intention, nor was that I didn't have like a card that says pump and dump guy
Mhm.
on it. Okay, that wasn't my intention. It was just that when you're young and I was, making good money and
Yeah.
I I guess I was a good looking guy. I mean, I know apparently, well, that's what they said, the girls, and so
Well.
especially since they were laying there naked next to me. But yeah, but I understand that. But that's not a. And please, I'm not bragging about that. I'm not. Honestly, I don't care about. I don't. First of all, I don't like most. I don't. I don't. I don't. My person, my character, is never predicated or based on the approval or how many women I've been with. I don't care about that. Certainly not
Mm.
now.
Mm.
Okay. Um, and but yeah, but I was, but that's just how it happened. But in the very same sense that I was a pump and dump guy, I've also met women who were pump and dump
Yeah.
girls too. That does exist, especially now.
Oh yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
I but a little bit forgot about. Yeah. Well, then you just suddenly stop pump and dumping, you know, and you're used to so
yeah,
much sex. Well, I had a short period of a few years, and I was into that stuff. Was after my long
sure.
relationship ended of 6 years. Was back in 2011, 12, something like that. Anyway, but I was also watching porn. I didn't have a doll. I hope I will never have. But I was like porn and trying to get laid, and also getting laid. Stuff like that. That was it. And a lot of alcohol and stuff like that, drugs and anyway. Yeah, but if that would all be taken away from me, yeah, I will miss something. So, but the key is, and that's what I'm trying to do, like the last couple of years, is disentangle myself from that whole I need quick sexual gratification. And well, I'm not completely like, what do you say, that monk mode or orgasm free or something like that. But I really cut back on that. I really cut back on the, like, not that, yeah, let's call it an addiction. An addiction to lust, an addiction to
Sure.
sex, preoccupation with sex, you know. And actually, that's very freeing. It boosts.
And
Yeah.
let me just interject.
Say.
It is.
Yeah.
Women know that. Women know that about men, and they use it to their advantage all the time. Don't forget that, guys. I'm sure you haven't, but please continue.
Those are very wise words. Because sex can be used.
Yes, they are.
Yes, and I experienced that as well. Sex can be used as a tool of control.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're,
gotcha.
and if you're more in control, with which I feel that I am right now, I think I have to put it into practice again to know if I'm right, because I haven't been in a relationship for a few years. But I believe then, you have a stronger negotiating position. And, well, that's very nice, then, except being a slave of your urges, and doing everything what the woman says to keep her happy. So, oh yeah, you can get your fix, climb on her, and how must it be for a woman? I wonder, if you are aware of the fact that you're using sex as a tool, and then one day after a week or something, or after 2 weeks, then you say, okay, honey, now you are allowed to yeah, how do you say that in a nice manner? You know what I'm talking about. I don't understand.
Well, yeah, basically,
Yeah.
she has.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, let me use some street parlance here about this very controlling or gaining power over that which has power over you. And it's street parlance. Don't put the pussy on a pedestal. Simple. Just don't do that, because that is what we do. But see, what's wrapped around, it's really what's wrapped around the vagina that we're buying into. That's the Kool-Aid. So once it's got a grip on you, women are lustful creatures too. Of course they are by design. So are we. This is, again, biological imperatives, right? But sex is now often used for comfort and for some, and in the worst cases, basically their whole identity is shaped around it, which is horrible when I think about that. But it shouldn't be. It's like I said in one of my videos, yet again, it's a pastime at best. Okay, and it really, really is. For some people, it's everything. It's like it's literally like jumping from in an ocean of loneliness. Sex is like those little islands that you can jump on from one to the other. There's a whole bunch of them, and so you're not thinking about the ocean around you. You're just thinking about that next island, or basically your next fix of sex. And so, and that, women are very aware of this. One of the most critical aspects, I think, of female nature is their ability to manipulate men. Remember, being the strength-wise and in certain ways, we're not the same, but they have their strengths too, and it's important to know that. And they know how to wield them over us. This is why men quite often act like domesticated creatures once he has some arm candy hanging around him. He's got a regular supply of sex. He's very docile. He follows her lead, and a smart woman, gives a man the sense that he's making the decisions, when in fact she's the real man behind the curtain, and using the Wizard of Oz, only she's the woman behind the curtain. So this is where women, and I think some women get kind of a thrill from that. Their titillation and sexuality, they also have titillate. I understand about female sexuality. So they very much are lustful creatures, but in a different way than us. The way that they experience lust is different than that of a man. The way that they get off or climax or have orgasms is different than a man. So understanding the differences here. Now that's at a biological level, but when you start to add the layers, the relationshipy stuff and all of that, then suddenly not only you're complicating it, but then it becomes about control. It becomes about the heroin dealer and the heroin addict.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
calling it an addiction, it
But you,
can be
but
an
you,
but it's
you
a form
mean?
of control.
Sorry,
And
yeah.
so, yeah,
I have a question, but I didn't
it's
know.
okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, did you about control? Do you mean that they see control as some
Hmm.
kind of aphrodisiac? You know, something that turns them on, or yeah,
Oh, hell
is
yeah.
that it?
Oh, I've met women
Okay,
like, oh,
but to have
yeah.
this control.
Oh, they do
Well,
exist.
okay, okay, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
just when you were talking, I was thinking about like I've met a few women like at work, you know, female colleagues. They were married, and were actually bragging about the fact that their husband has done a lot of things for them. You know, bought this, cleaned the car, blah 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 blah, and that this weekend they will reward them. And they say like, he can get his just translate. He can get his fix again this weekend. Ha 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 ha. Really saying it in almost some kind of sadistic
Yeah.
way, and in a way
Oh, yeah.
listen, I'm in control here because I have the vagina, and you know what my vagina let him do, this and this and this, and yeah, I'm going to give him his fix. I've thought about it, and yeah, he will get it. And I was always,
Women can be
well,
assholes.
sorry,
They're assholes. Some
the
of them are
women,
assholes. They're just complete. Yeah, they're
but the
cunts. Some
way,
of them.
yeah,
I mean, but they're not wrong.
I no,
I mean, sorry, I'm sorry. They're not wrong in how they're describing the situation. Yeah, they've got this guy over a barrel, literally.
the
Yeah, but go on, finish your.
visualizing a guy like that. I don't know why. Maybe it's
Mhm.
because of my father, what he taught me or something like that. But I actually not. Maybe once I've been in such a position, but I did not tolerate it. It was with one of my girlfriends. It was a short relationship. That when I get the feeling that she is manipulating me or trying to control me through sex, I'm done. I don't know why it is, but
Mhm.
because when I visualize a guy like that, like it's such a sad image in my head. I cannot see myself
It
like
is.
that. Like, what are you?
You can't even think of him as manly,
No,
do you?
absolutely.
You don't think of him
I
as a
think of
man, do
him
you?
as
No, you don't.
a Smeagol, like Gollum,
A
a
simp.
simp. Yeah, especially as
He's a
that's
simp.
right.
He's a
The
simp.
definition of simp: blue pill, beta male, like simp, mangina stuff like that. I see it more like a creep. I
Well,
think
I
it's
think there's a difference
creepy. I
between.
think those guys are a little bit. I don't know. I'm too judgmental. I'm becoming too
Well,
judgmental. It's more like reflecting to myself.
it's okay.
It's like I cannot see myself in a position like that. I would loathe myself if I would in a position like that be like that.
When I was in a very real sense, my journey has brought me back to the very source, the beginning of my own. And forgive me for throwing myself in there. I guess it's my narcissism.
Oh yeah, you're
By
narcissist.
the way, everyone's
Yeah, to sum
narcissistic.
it,
I don't. If they say that they're not,
everyone to
they're full of
some extent,
shit.
yeah.
Um, it's an expression of our ego, and an ego is a necessary thing. But too much ego, it's like anything else. Too much is too much. But anyway, my point is, there's something instructive here. A lot of us, a lot of guys, and the ones that sit there and point and laugh and say, "Oh, you're a simp," it's like, well, I look at an idiot. I think of that kid in the fucking Simpsons going, "Ha ha." It's like, okay, but then when shit happens to him, it's like then it's no longer ha ha. It's like, look at you, dumbass. I don't. One thing I've sort of removed myself from is that kind of stupid mentality, because it is stupid mentality. This keeps coming back to the very same theme. It's about how we see ourselves. Understand yourself first, and not only understand others, but be a little forgiving of it too, because there might be, for some of you, you might have been that guy. So don't lampoon the guy just because you're a freed slave off the plantation. Don't make fun of the other slaves. Trust me, somewhere in that poor man that's basically being pulled around by his dick is a guy screaming to come out. It's a man that wants to be a MGTOW or just a man. and wants to get control of his life again. It's again the imbalance being represented by the manipulations of a woman, but men have done it to women too. So again, it keeps coming back to that essence of balance.
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
understand what you're saying.
and so
I'm sorry,
yeah,
man.
very much so. So well, because yeah, I feel bad for him. I mean, you know, I was a blue pillar for a while too. You know, although I was, my own story is maybe similar to some. I'm sure it is. But I was kind of lucky in some ways, and I'm glad. And that's probably why I'm still talking today, because I can see how some guys end up. Had mentioned this when you and I decided we'd have this discussion. We're gonna. I don't know if it's in your topic list because you're kind of running this interview, but is the subject of male suicide, which is a big thing. But I won't roll right into that, but I'm just going to kind of give a nod to it because some guys base their whole lives on that woman's manipulation and the fact that he feels he actually thinks that he needs that to keep him whole. I'm saying, no, you don't. No, you don't. Just simple. You don't. I mean, if you can have a woman in your life, you can have sex, but never compromise your values. If that woman is going to start, like you said yourself, which is good, by the way, I love that. At some point, when she starts shit testing you, and she starts and really starts to see just how far she can get you under her thrall, under her control, that's when you put your foot down, and that's when you basically say, look, I'm not going there. Don't try to do it. You know, either you agree to these terms, or there's the door. Let her leave. Let her leave. Because trust me, in the same way she's going to exercise power over you, you also, people, I think some guys tend to forget, they've got the key. They're the ones with power too. Whatever he provides for her is something she desperately needs, thus her need to control him in order to ensure that she gets it. Right? So if she is always needing that, then clearly he's got something she needs, and that gives him leverage too. You always have leverage if somebody's trying to control you, because they're controlling you for a reason, because they need something from you. That's all so
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. I agree, and you speak from experience, and well, so do I. Just one thing to clear this up. What you're talking about, that don't actually, basically comes down to don't shame men who are into this situation. It was not my intention to shame anyone for it. Believe me, I've been blue pilled and manipulated on many other levels, just not the sex one, but many other levels. I've been manipulated. So we've all been there, and it's, I think, very important to learn from each other here. Yeah, I think that's it. How about
And I think the shaming of other men is, I'm just gonna, sorry, forgive me, but it just came to my mind, is, and sometimes the thing that we hate in other people is the very thing we hate in ourselves.
Yeah.
So in a very real sense, when somebody's pointing at someone and saying, look at you, you're a simp, maybe because that person pointing the finger was probably a simp themselves at some point, and they hated it about themselves. So that's
I think you're very...
So,
yeah. That's. I think that is a correct observation. I've seen when I'm irritated by someone or not hating, it's mostly because he displays a characteristic that I recognize in myself. So that's very true. I've been called simp a few times on my channel already, so then I know what's going on with the person that's calling me like that. That's calling me simp. He must have been a simp himself. So
sure.
He knows how it is. And
oh yeah. That's why trolls don't affect me as much.
If you think about that. So.
Well, I had a guy. Let me give you a quick example, just real quickly. I had mentioned in the Reddit forums, MGTOW, talked a little bit about, for whatever reason, it just got to this discussion, and I brought up a little bit of my backstory about my being married, a couple of times, well, 3 times now, and my last, it probably had something to do with with not all foreign women are like that. And so, and he was trying to defend that Asian values weren't quite as off the rails as they are in Western society, and and he tried to bait me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, dude, I'm not going to play your game. It's like I could see what he was trying to do, and and basically lampoon my experiences, and I thought, that's when people do that, when they troll or when they're just kind of shitty, or they're or making some off-color judgment. It really, what they're doing, I don't have to do I don't have to say anything to that. I mean, I could respond if I want, but they're kind of making themselves the ass. They are the ass. It's like the person that they're I mean, hopefully not every person on the other end of the internet connection is going to be necessarily the most self-aware or educated or worldly person. We're all different. We all come from different backgrounds, and so our perspectives are going to be very different. A guy that was raised on the streets and had a very harsh life, or maybe he's from a single mother environment, who knows? Or worse, he's living in a war-torn country like Afghanistan, and although, how many of those guys have internet connections? Anyway, my point is, the perspectives are going to be different, and it's fine. I just kind of sit back and enjoy it. Sorry about my squeaky chair, by the way.
Oh.
But yeah. But it's.
If you talk about baiting, what you say about on that Reddit forum of MGTOW, what I sometimes suspect with some people that are looking for, like, they're saying something, like, all women are this, or all foreign women are like this and this and this. And they're looking for either backup of their claim, or they're looking for a counter answer that, like, well, they have a negative belief of something, and they're looking, they're like trying to extract information from other people to prove them, or at least to provide them evidence that what they are thinking and what that thought, that way of thinking is making them miserable, is not true, and gives them maybe a little bit of relief, so seeking like negative evidence, if I can call it like that. And I think that's happening a lot. Like people just dropping like,
I think it is.
And they're waiting for people to say, nah, not really. And then they ask, oh, why? Well, because of this and this and this. And then they like open up and say, well, yeah, well, this and that. And that brings them some relief or something like that. I see that happening. So
it could be, yeah.
I would like to talk about the next topic, actually. It's about not all foreign women are like that. NAFALT.
And
NAFALT. And I want to introduce this topic with a question I had from a guy on one of my videos. The video is called Why Men Are Leaving the Workforce. It's a question by André Stapert. I think he is either Dutch or Belgian. Well, anyway. He says, this video is about why men are leaving the workforce. He says, there's something missing in this video clip, and I would really like to hear you about it. What do you think about the reason that there are so incredibly much men going to Asia to find a woman there in amount is growing every day? That's what he said. And they are finding the woman that they are searching for there. They just don't want the Western woman anymore. Well, I have my thoughts about it, but I lack the experience that you have. So, do you have an answer for Mr. Stapert?
Well, I'm not going to butcher his name, although I'm pretty good at pronouncing foreign names. Well, to your viewer, I can to the guy that asked the question, the comment. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. That's quite the subject. But yes, I do, and certainly I've had that experience. Although I can't help but point out that when I originally went to Indonesia, I had 2 marriages behind me, and at that time that I left the United States to go and finally live my dream, which was, I wanted to live and work overseas and see the world, and the last thing on my mind, honestly, and I know that some guys, and I get some more stories to share here, but that was the last thing on my mind. I was not thinking. As a matter of fact, I was certain when I boarded a Garuda flight out of L.A., I was certain I was never going to be married again. True story.
2 marriages, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. By that time, I'd had the 2 significant women in my life, the 2 mothers of my children. Again, love triangle gone full circle. I was done. I'd done both. It didn't work out. All the usual things that you know about family law and all that. So I was on my way to a new life. In a very real way, that was kind of a MGTOW moment, even though MGTOW as a term did not exist at that time. I was definitely going my own way. I was going my own way. Not only was going my own way, I was going where I wanted to be. I wanted to go to Indonesia. I wanted to make a go of it. I had an uncle that lived there. He's like, come here, stay here, see if you can get a job. I did. So, long story short, clearly, I did get married again. But it wasn't that I went there looking, certainly I was looking to get laid, but I wasn't looking to form another family, right? So, and one thing about me, I think, is, especially once this video is produced, I'm a really blunt guy. I don't hold much back. Because I think the truth in all its visceralness is still a beautiful thing. And I think that a lot of people will appreciate it because it probably mirrors what they're thinking anyway. That's why, sometimes it's hard to hear. But I went there very clear about my intentions. But here's the thing, your intentions can often go off the rails. And they did. But it all started out well. And I think one of the reasons why guys, by the way, to answer the question, is that because we still see the East, Asia, places like Indonesia, pretty much all countries, although China, I'm not sure. But yeah, their values, it's kind of like Eastern Bloc women in Europe. And a lot of Eastern Bloc women will insist, we're still real women, we still understand a man's place and a woman's place in the world. And so that's why guys are going for the, like Russians and Romanians and all that. But it's the same in the East, right? So, because I think that a lot of guys we still like the idea of traditional, and we're going to go in the tradcon route here. They still think that these women see family. See, I think this is in response to the destruction of nuclear families, really shit family law, that marriage is basically a disposable term, and that, and relationships are disposable, and a lot of men that go to Asia often are looking for that succor, that comfort of having a woman they can provide for, that'll be there for them, that basically entertains the idea that there can be a happy balance between a man and a woman. That the woman, that a man draws comfort from a woman that looks after him, fawns over him when he comes home, and he will do the same for her. And here's the thing, when a woman does that for a man, I believe that men, and we've seen this time, it's played out through history, even up till the now, men will do anything for a woman that gives him that level of what he feels he needs, or that he desires, that he's instinctively drawn to. In the same way that she is attracted to his strength and his ability to provide, which is I think, I look at it with my own ex-wife, a lot of her rhetoric, the things that she says in both English and Indonesian, basically comes down when we're in cabs and the guy, we're talking to the sopir taxi, the taxi driver, and he's talking about, like you always make conversation. He's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I gotta keep making that money for my family, and she'll immediately jump on that. It's like, oh yes, that's so important. The man must look after the family, and so I think that's part of it, big time. And yes, there's some hypergamy in there, but that's, and again, it's female nature. But here's the thing: they're still females. They still operate on female nature. Now, even though the society they grew up in, their religious upbringings and all of that might layer some of that and might make them kind of, let's say, herd them into certain roles that they're happy to take on as long as it's satisfying some of the needs of female nature. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that they tend to see it as the potential for a more stable long-term relationship. And I think that the guys going there, I met a guy in LA recently when I went to Jakarta on September 15th, and it's some guy around my age, and he'd been married for like 30 years. His wife dumped him, once the kids were in college, and then she just threw him out with the trash. And so he had met some Filipina online, and he was on his way to the Philippines. Mm-hmm. And I, at that moment, even though I had not quite fully gone red pill, I was pretty close, but not fully. I wanted to tell him, dude, turn around and get the fuck out of here. Go home. Don't do this. Because I know how these foreign girls think. I know what they see when they see a Westerner like you or me or any European or American or Australian, doesn't matter. They think they got one thing on their mind. He's got more money. He's got more. He can get me out of this shithole that I live in because I hate it here and I don't have everything I want because I don't have the ability to sustain myself. The economy sucks. The political structure sucks. I want to be rescued. And so, of course, she's going to do anything he wants.
Yeah, but now I agree with what you say about how they think. But there comes a characteristic that I would call, is directly translated from Dutch. When you're structurally dissatisfied, always dissatisfied. Basically, I think many men have it too. It's not just a female feature. So the grass is always greener on the other side, and then they have that. They have that man, that Western man. That Western man brings her to his country, could be United States, Holland, whatever. And then she's there, and it's still not good enough because now she is homesick and she misses her family, and she also gets a little bit like contaminated by Western culture, if I can call it contaminated, and also started to want other things like her Western, like the Western women there do. So it's, I've seen that. It's also never enough. They say, like, if you do that, if you decide to go for example, an Indonesian woman, keep her in her country, because if you bring her to a Western country, she will very quickly change into a Western woman, and then you have the same results as going with a Western woman. So, I think there's a little bit of truth in that. I've seen it with my own eyes, like exotic women changing into Western women. I'm not saying that's good or bad or something, but I think it's something you have to keep in mind if you decide to do this, if you decide to go this road.
I completely agree, because a lot of it has to do with think about the in society, men and women, privilege, the privilege of the society that you live in. And so the women enjoy, I would say, by far, which is kind of ironic that feminism really has its bastion in places in countries like our own, that they're insisting that it's the same mentality as the women we have in our countries. It's never enough. They want more. That's all. Feminism wants more. When is it ever going to be enough? It's an endless well of desire, and so anyway, so in their societies, a bit more subsumed, women, although women in Indonesia, by the way, for those of you listening to this talk, it is a Muslim country, but it's not anywhere quite the same as, like, if you go to an Arab country. There is some huge differences. They're a lot more, let's say, liberal in a place like Indonesia, but it's still a Muslim country. So, or Malaysia, for example. But so they enjoy a little bit more freedoms than the women in those countries might. And so take a look at the results of that. So when a woman comes to a country like ours, suddenly her power increases just by virtue of being in the society. She's now under the laws. her constraints of the country, and her constraints are considerably different and perhaps even liberated in some aspects, and she knows this, and or at least once she gets to know and understand the level to which she has agency within that country, oh my. Oh my. And you've seen it, I've seen it happen to guys. My story's a little different. My ex-wife has never been to the United States, ever. But she did live with me in Singapore, which is tantamount to living in the United States or any modern country, or more modern. So she gets to experience, because let's face it, Singapore is like a blend of East and West, big time. And so she got to experience what that's like, to live that life. We lived in a nice, expensive condominium. I took her traveling with me, so she saw a different side of life compared to the one that she was accustomed to in Indonesia. Yes. So, did it change your perspective? You bet your ass it did. Of course it did.
So,
you're right, though. By the way, you're right. It is what it is. It's not to be reviled. It's to be understood. Anyway.
Maybe a bit too personal, but right now, like, you are divorced, huh?
Yes.
I just assume that she has to go back to Jakarta, or maybe she was already in Jakarta, and at least go back to that life she had before she met you.
Well, she's had that life. Again, my story's a little bit different than others, okay? Because we were apart for 15 years of our marriage, like literally physically apart. And there's a big old story there that I'm not even going to tackle here. But some of it, if you watch my my Red Pill Highway video, talks a little bit about that. And you and I discussed it before. But no, she's still there. And we do talk, by the way. I mean, one thing that I will not compromise on are, the one child that I actually have some say with is my youngest daughter. And regardless of the war between the sexes, the issue between my ex-wife and me with regards to religion, although, fun story, she kind of capitulated and tried to get me back. I didn't bring that up, but yeah, she like months and months and months later, when she realized that she made a huge mistake, because my capacity to earn, my capacity as a male, and particularly, to give her at least the semblance of a better life, she shit all over that. She's already hit the wall. She's not there's no man waiting to pick her up and fix her life now. So it's like, I mean, unless she just gets really lucky, but and I think she realized that. But of course it was, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, well, too late. Sorry. But I'm not an asshole. I do, regardless of what things, I think this is where some men can appreciate it. Yes, we might be angry at these women. They might have shit on us. They might have acted and behaved irresponsibly and wrong, and it ended up damaging us. There is something about, but we are, let's face it, guys, we're the strong ones in certain areas. And when it comes to dealing with shit and trying to figure things out and making it better, that is definitely our realm. It's what they look to us for. And so that, and plus I have a daughter. And there's a lot of confusing feelings there, because I have two daughters, by the way. I have two daughters and a son. The world that she's growing up into, she's 16 years old, and I still want to be an influence in her life, and I know that I am, because too much of one parent is never going to account for the other one's lack of presence. So Daddy is very much a part of my young daughter's life, and I want that to continue. And besides, if she wants to get a college education, she's gonna need me in her life. So so there's that. But that's my kid. I still have to think like a parent. Despite my own needs, wants, thoughts, shit going on with me as a singular individual, I still include her in my life because that's my kid. Same with my son. Same with my eldest daughter. That must never be for me. There is no compromise, because those are my kids. They're important to me, and plus they're also separate from the issues of me and and the females that called their mothers. One's so. But yeah,
Mm.
anyway, I may have kind of gone off a bit there, but yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's I don't know what to say about it. It's your experience, and well, phew, question that popped my mind is, do you talk to your daughter often, or
As much as
okay?
I can, yeah. We use WhatsApp, and so I make it a point to do that. I mean, she's at that angsty teenage daughter. You know, everybody always is afraid of the teenage daughter years, but and trust me, I had to deal with it when I was there. She went off the rails once, and it was shocking to behold. But yes, of course I do.
Mm.
It's important to maintain. One thing I've always said about anything, communication is not always comfortable, but it's better than none at
Mm.
all,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Because here's what happens when you don't have communication. What do we as humans do? We think, we imagine, and that can be a good or bad thing, right? So yeah, but so no, it's important to maintain
Very
communication.
good.
And I've told
Yeah.
her, I've given her the option. I said,
Yeah.
look, when you're 18, if you want to, we'll talk about it. We'll revisit the subject, but because she technically has dual citizenship, my daughter, because I registered her at the American Embassy when we lived in Singapore, and so, but she's very tied to her. Well, for one thing, her mother keeps her close at hand because her mother's not stupid in that regard, and so, but it's understandable too because they are certainly more familial there than the failing family in our countries, and I think that's another reason why men go to those countries because I think that no matter how advanced our civilization gets, the one thing that we should never lose is our humanness, our need for each other. That's kind of an issue now with technology. It says, oh, we're close, we're more connected than ever before, but we're so far apart from each other. It's so true. We still need each other, and a sense of family, especially for guys like me at 52. I at least still remember what that's like and how great it feels, and how even in the worst of times, even when you're at odds with your family, at least you had each other, and there is something to say about that. If it wasn't important, if it didn't have impact, we wouldn't care about it, and we would have let it go like an organ you don't need anymore. But no, I don't agree with that. I think that human beings still very much need each other, and
Mm.
so family's important.